iaitu Fiqh Perubatan. Untuk makluman semua, sesi ceramah kita pada petang ini akan disampaikan oleh Profesor Haji Zainul Ibrahim bin Zainuddin, Assistant Professor Department of Diagnostic Imaging and Radiography, Universiti Islam Antarabangsa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajma'in. Selamat datang kami ucapkan ke sesi ceramah iaitu Fiqh Perubatan yang diraih Prof Haji Zainul Ibrahim bin Zainuddin, pensyarah Universiti Islam Antarabangsa, selaku penceramah kita pada petang ini. Yang dihormati Dr. Hajah Syaridah binti Kasim, Barisan Pensyarah, Kaki Tangan Sokongan Jabatan Pengemejan Perubatan, Wakil Universiti Islam Antarabangsa UiTM, mahasiswa-mahasiswi serta hadirin hadirat yang dihormati sekalian. Assalamualaikum dan salam perpaduan. Melati kuntum tumbuh melata, sayang merbah di pohon cemara. Assalamualaikum mulanya kata, salam sembah pembuka bicara. Bagi lebih memberkati majlis ilmu kita pada petang ini, majlis dengan segala hormatnya menjemput Saudara Muhammad Arifuddin bin Muhammad Azhar bagi memimpin bacaan doa. Majlis mempersilakan.
A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa liwalidayna warhamhuma kama rabbawna shighara wa li jami'il muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, rahmatilah majlis kami ini. Jadikanlah ia suatu majlis yang dirahmati, dan penyelesaian atau kesudahan yang terpelihara daripada maksiat. Berkatilah program Misas World Radiography Day pada hari ini. Lapangkanlah dada kami untuk mengutip mutiara ilmu di sini, serta permudahkanlah bagi kami untuk mengamalkannya bagi manfaat agama, diri, masyarakat dan negara. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqa ma'suma wa la taj'alillahumma fina wa la ma'na wa la ma yatba'una syakiyan wa la matrudan wa la mahruma. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi washabihi wassalam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Moga majlis ini diberkati Rabbul Izzati.
Tanpa melengahkan masa, majlis menjemput Profesor Haji Zainul Ibrahim untuk menyampaikan ceramah beliau yang bertajuk Fiqh in Medical Imaging and Initial Approach dan The Role of Muslim Medical Imaging Practitioner. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sebelum saya ucap dengan lebih lanjut, saya nak buat satu correction. Sebenarnya saya bukan profesor lah. Saya assistant professor. there will be another 2 steps, mungkin tak ada dengan saya. Ya, tak apa, itu kesilapan yang mungkin tidak disengajakan. Saya diberi 2 title untuk disampaikan, tapi sebelum tu saya tengok pada Dr. Hajar Syaridah Kasim. Okay, she used to go to our place, yeah, to teach last time. Okay, and lecturers, organizing committee, yeah, and students. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity that they have given me to share some of my knowledge, newfound knowledge, I would put it that way. I'm sorry, but major part of the presentation today is part of my PhD undertaking, so I don't have the time to change to Bahasa Melayu. But I really hope that you all will forgive me kalau saya selang-selikan dengan Bahasa Melayu. Ya, saya akan bermula. I will start with the role of a Muslim medical imaging practitioner. The role of a Muslim medical imaging practitioner with special reference to the radiographer, right? So I have about 1 hour to deliver this particular section, and I hope I will finish it in time. So for the introduction, if you know or if you recall, the history of medical imaging practically starts around 1895 with the discovery of X-rays, and the development concerning medical imaging has always been attributed to the Western world. So, although countries like Japan and Korea and lately China eventually came and contributed to the technological advancement in the field, in most countries, the literature used are usually based on Western values and practices. All right. So, the nature of the medical imaging literature is that it is written by non-Muslims, a lot of it, okay? And with that, understandably the Islamic perspectives with respect to this type of literature is practically none, right? How many of you, the final year students, you have a source, ataupun you have read a lot of the books? Was there any mention of the word God? Was there any mention of the spelling G-O-D? I'm not talking about Allah, I'm talking about G-O-D. Even the non-Muslims themselves do not address to God in their literature, right? So, there was nothing about Islam, and one major void is the aspect of ubudiyah, or the concept of God, or the submission to Allah. And this is just an extension of the indoctrination of the Western values and practices and beliefs, right? For the simple fact that they don't allow the religious perspectives to be addressed in the literature. And furthermore, there is already an over-dependence on this type of literature, and the effect will be the distancing of the radiographers from elements related to religious aspects. So the problem is there is not enough literature to address where are the Islamic perspectives in relation to our profession, our professionals, and also ourselves as medical imaging practitioners. So those are the implications of the literature, and of course implications on the curriculum. Again, we have to be aware of the fact that the teaching and the learning is devoid of all these Islamic perspectives. All right, and hence it will eventually have the implication on the radiographers, whereby in their practice is merely radiography from the secular perspective. And that will be a big headache for Muslim radiographers or Muslim would-be radiographers. So the questions will be, who is a Muslim or a Muslimah for that matter? And from now on, I will just use the word Muslim. It will denote both genders. Who is a medical imaging practitioner? All right. So, to be simple, who is a Muslim or Muslimah is usually one who submits to Allah. And it is sometimes in the Quran is translated as a believer. All right. They don't use the word Muslim so much in the Quran or the translation. They will use the word believers. All right. And this Muslim believes in the 5 pillars of Islam and 6 pillars of Iman. Alright? And of course, their lives will dwell around the concept of Sharia, which is actually laid upon for Muslims to follow. So who's a medical imaging practitioner? So this particular person is one who possesses the body of knowledge that satisfies or fulfills the requirements of a certain awarding body, and also he or she had been acknowledged to practice this vocation and is expected to fill the expectations of the profession through an outlined standard of professionalism. All right? So that is a medical imaging practitioner, and like I said, for the purpose of this presentation, it is just the radiographer. Now, who is a Muslimah medical imaging practitioner? My definition will be a Muslim medical imaging practitioner is one who integrates his religious beliefs, values, and practices into the theory and practice of medical imaging. He or she is able to create a harmonization between the religious obligations to the expectations of the profession. So, what is expected of a Muslim or Muslimah medical imaging practitioner? So I'm hopeful that by the end of the talk, you will get an idea of what it is going to be. Now, the purpose of the presentation, number one is to examine the general features of the roles of a medical imaging practitioner, to present a conceptual description. Why I use the word conceptual? Because this has not been proven. So it is a conceptual description of the roles of a Muslim medical imaging practitioner, to propose an applicable code of practice for a Muslim medical imaging practitioner, because there has yet to exist any of this code. And for the purpose of this presentation, medical imaging practitioner refers to the radiographer or radiology technologists. That's what they call in America, or similar professions, right? A radiology assistant or whatever, but dealing with medical imaging. So, the roles of the medical imaging practitioner, if you would like to find out what are you supposed to do, actually there exists a lot of documents, yeah? So what we need to do is just examining documents outlining the roles. You don't have to think about it. It's already there, all right? Just like an English proverb that says, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already there. So take it and make benefit of its presence. So there are various documents available on the internet. They come under different names, like Code of Practice, Code of Ethics, Code of Professional Standards, for example, from UK, US, and Australia. For example, Australian Institute of Radiography Guidelines for Professional Conduct for Radiographers, Australian Institute of Radiography Professional Ethics, American Society of Radiologic Technologies, Radiographic Practice Standards and Code of Ethics, and so on and so forth. So the general purpose of these documents are to outline the general roles, responsibilities, and conducts. In some situations, they gabung everything. In some situations, they only address the code of the practice, and in some, it's just ethics. Right? I'm not here to elaborate on that, right? Because this is the, I'm just highlighting the fact that these are the documents that are available for our reference. So, in usually in these documents, they outline what are the universally accepted principles and objectives in healthcare, including medical imaging. If I were to ask a year 4 student, can you identify for me what are the universally accepted principles of healthcare? Just for, this one is universally accepted in the concept of beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, and justice. All right? And after that, they also outline what are the specific or universally accepted objectives of healthcare. Objectives of healthcare include, number 1 is saving life. Number 2 will be prevention of further harm. After that, contribution towards recovery and promoting health. Right? But the list is not exhaustive. It depends on certain documents. Some are more detailed in their presentation. Right? So the thing is, we have to understand the various components involved in radiography and the general expectations of each component. Now, a common feature among these documents is, senang saja, no religious references. No religious references of any kind. Alright? And number 2, there's total segregation. In other words, there's total segregation or total secularization of human sciences and religious aspects. They don't mix. Alright? Next will be the implications on this Muslim practitioner will be Muslim professionals will not be able to relate their professional activities to what Islam promotes. We become more robotic. Alright? Subconsciously, this is an indoctrination of the Muslim individual into accepting the ideals of segregation and secularization in the profession. If allowed to persist, the secularization process will make its way into even the non-professional area. So something needs to be done, and it's time for all of us to contemplate and do some self-examination or muhasabah. There must be a group of individuals who serve to overcome this shortcoming, utilizing the Allah-given intellect to identify the issues that has contributed to this situation, and furthermore, we need to provide the solutions. We do not add to a problem. We are only there to provide solutions. All right? And this, in essence, could pave the way for the revival of the Islamic heritage into the professions, incorporating the spiritual perspective as evident in the Islamic worldview. I will touch a little bit about the Islamic worldview in my next session. So, the roles of a medical imaging practitioner, all right, just to a quick revision, in patient and patient care, all right, they are dealing with patient and patient care, whereby you need to understand your patient, their needs, and the individual patient care, specially tailored for each patient. Values such as empathy, proactiveness, attentiveness, addressing the rights of the patient, as well as positive communication will be related to this aspect. How about technologies? The use of technologies to maximize and optimize the use of, we need to maximize and optimize the use of the technologies to benefit the management of the patient. We are reminded to manipulate the imaging parameters to optimize safety and image quality and cost. If you recall, the concept of optimization now applies. Next, for the procedures, we conduct the procedures based on a thorough understanding of the conduct of the procedure, based on what is the intended outcome, and relating the procedure to the condition of the patient at a given time. The concept of individual tailoring of radiological examination applies. How about images? Aspects involving images, we know about the concept of image quality criteria and film critique. How about quality? We have to ensure quality aspects in all aspects of the service, not only in terms of image quality, in order to meet the customer expectation and satisfaction. What about economic considerations? We have to balance the economic considerations because we have to be aware in the era of rising healthcare costs, a commitment to reduce costs is highly desirable. Repeating of examinations due to limitations in competencies or irresponsible acts of personal nature creates doubts to one's actual recognition to practice. How there was a time whereby we are making use of analog imaging, right? And repeats were quite common, right? And some of the radiographers actually don't care less. What they say is, tak apa susahnya lah kalau tak jadi repeat. Please remember, brothers and sisters, you are not paid extra for each repeat. In the private sector, for each repeat, you are going to have your pay cut. Right? At least I know of one particular hospital that exercised that. Now, how about safety issues? You have to remember that safety issue is not only radiation based. All right? You have the procedural, we have the MRI, you have the ultrasound. All right? You have the possibility of cross-infection and also the problem with transferring the patient. These are all safety considerations that you have to take into account. What about, because I mentioned the word transferring, yeah, because I have seen radiographers actually transfer patients from the stretcher to the examination table in cases of suspected spinal fracture. Yes? And you can ask anybody, the year 4 or year 3, maybe you have seen that before, alright? So, bear that in mind. My challenge to you is, if any one of you is involved in that, in transferring the patient or over manipulating the patient, and if something happens to the patient, example, paralysis, I'm going to ask you one simple question. Do you think you can sleep soundly tonight and for the rest of your life? Just bear that in mind. After that, customer satisfaction. Well, customers, there are a lot of variations in the customer. Right? Please remember, your customer is not only your patient, your peers, the clinicians, the hospital administrators, and also your other stakeholders. All right? Their expectations must be met. And education. How do you take education and lifelong learning? The professionalism and the professional ethics. This one we will, address with the professional code of conduct and all the documents, and also your research. Where do you stand concerning doing research? Because for me, I have to remind you that research done elsewhere might not be applicable to us because of genetic factors. You can replicate, you can duplicate the research for our local consumption. Results might differ. So, where do Islam fit in this scheme of things? So, the radiographer needs to examine himself in the terms of his Muslim self, his relationship with the Creator, And to be fair, prioritization of self in terms of fulfilling the religious obligations, time for self plus time for the family and community. There's not one factor alone, all right? And next will be in terms of him being a radiographer, remember he's employed and the employer will expect you to give the best in your service, all right? Do not attempt to take a shortcut, all right? Because people pay you. Next, a professional or an expert. How do people view you as a professional? How do you conduct yourself as a professional, right? Now, his or her peers, how do your friends or your colleagues accept you, right? How well do you relate to them? His and her students, how well do you teach your students? I'm not talking about the lecturers, I'm talking about the radiographers in the field. Do you see this happening? I know about some radiographers actually were rather blunt, saying that I don't want to work with any student. Ada, and I know about it. So the thing is, don't let that happen to you. And his family, well, his time, his love, his affection, and his role to the community. Remember, we still have a community to serve, right? In whatever capacity that we can, right? Now, our contemporary obligations will be, number one, to subscribe to the Islamic worldview, all right? Islamic worldview, I asked my colleagues to check out what is the translation of Islamic worldview. Jawapannya ialah pandangan Islam. That's all. No? So it could be the same like perspective Islam, right? So to subscribe to the Islamic worldview in all aspects of the profession, acknowledge the intellect given to us. Remember, we are one of Allah's creations, but we were given the intellect, which is not given to any other creatures. And our obligation is also calling others back to the folds of the religion, sometimes known as da'wah. And systemization of values, I will elaborate this, plus you becoming agents of change. Just extending the saying by my rector, we don't want you to become agents of change. We want you to become agents of substantial change. So maybe I can just share with the rest of the fraternity here. So, what is a worldview? Worldview is derived from the German word Weltanschauung. I hope I can get it correct. And the American Heritage Dictionary describes it as the overall perspective from which one sees and interprets the world, and a collection of beliefs about life and the universe held by an individual or a group. Okay? So that's just the definition. Now, what is a secular worldview? Secular worldview is described by separation of daily matters from any religious perspectives. When you say daily matters means both professional or non-professional. Dua sekali. Alright? So there will not be any religious perspectives or references. Next. Characteristics of this worldview include right to be free from religious rulings, no imposition of the government upon the people pertaining to the matters of belief. All human activities and decisions are unbiased by religious influence. In other words, I don't think in the secular worldview there is any spelling called religion. I mean, we can sum up just like that, flat. Now, Islamic worldview, meanwhile, is based on several fundamental principles. Number one is Tawheed. That is, admitting or subjecting to the oneness of Allah. Bukan apa nama, Allah is one. The word that they use is oneness. It means that it is indivisible. You cannot divide anymore. It's just Esa. Bukan Allah tu satu, Allah tu Esa. Ya, kalau Terengganu tu Se. Se means Se, one. Not Se ini ya. So I am calling me Sir. That is different, Sir. Next will be the concept of vicegerency, also known as the Khalifah. Right? And I will elaborate slightly the concept of justice, how Islam promotes justice and asks us to defend justice. And of course, the religion, called the deen or the aqidah, that serves to guide man towards what's good and what should be avoided. So, the concept of vicegerency or the Khalifah, whereby a Muslim needs to accept the fact that Allah has assigned him as a vicegerent on earth, and this is already in the Quran, whereby there was this communication between Allah and the angels, whereby Allah says, I'm going to create a Khalifa on earth. And of course, you know the rest of the story. The angels say, why? Why do you want to create somebody who's going to create destruction? Apparently the angels knew that we are going to create destruction, and we are creating the destruction. Yeah, they're true, but Allah says, I know better than you, right? And next will be, he or she is responsible to utilize all available resources as well as knowledge gained from scientific endeavors to benefit self and mankind. This is a guiding factor. All right? And with this guiding factor, it all boils down to the fact that you should use your akal or the intellect to actually be able to carry out this particular obligation. And these activities need to be guided by the values, ethics, and theological standards as encompassed in Islam. And this is noted by Yasmin Mahnas Faruqi. I think she's the daughter of Ismail Faruqi. So, applications of the vicegerency, we are here to enjoin what is good and forbidding what is bad, not to do destruction on earth. Of course, this word is going to have a very, very vast implication. After that, use of the intellect, and preserving religion, life, wealth, progeny, and also the intellect. And this is all classified under the Maqasid al-Sharia, or objectives of the Sharia. After that will be protecting human rights and justice. So how do we fit into this? Well, in chapter 3, in the family of Imran, verse 104, and Allah says, let there arise out of you a band of people, inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right, and forbidding what is wrong. They are the ones to attain felicity. Felicity is also, the synonym is blessedness. Mereka yang mencapai kejayaan pun boleh, right? Mereka yang diredai pun boleh, something along that line. And also in verse 110, ye are the best of people, maksudnya kita lah. You are the best of peoples, evolved for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah. If only the people of the book had faith. This is referred to the Bani Israel, or the people who have the book. It were best for them. Among them are some who have faith, but most of them are perverted transgressors. Transgressors ialah, bahasa Melayunya ialah zalim. The Islamic worldview, what it should be. To reject current practices, the answer is no. We only reject practices that are contrary to Islam. We only reject knowledge that is contrary to Islam. In other words, I'm reinforcing your mind that you are reading or you are learning medical imaging, no problem. As long as it doesn't run contrary to Islam. And hopefully in my next session, we will examine which part of medical imaging could give rise to problems from the Islamic perspective. Okay? Now, how about the akal? Now I'm going to tell you about the court model. Alright? I have not seen it done, but I'm introducing it now. Alright? So, the challenges and use of the given intellect. The intellect or the akal is a given distinction given to mankind and not to any other creatures. We have to appreciate that. Okay? And please bear in mind that in the Quran, there are more than 200 times where Allah actually challenged us to use our intellect. When use of the intellect in relation to medical imaging, we can use it in order to contemplate on things that were. Contemplate means imbau. Imbau kembali. Right? Next, observe things that they are. Okay? Understand the reasons why. Reason what they should be. Right? And think how to do it. So all this fits well into the court model, whereby in the Quran, if you can go to searchquran.com, you just put in those words that I told you. Contemplate, observe, understand, reason, and think. There are verses that specifically address to the use of those words, so that you will have an idea of how many times Allah Subhanahu wa Taala actually challenged us to use the intellect. So, now, there's no graduates here except for the lecturers. I'm going to ask the student, except for IIUM student yang jawab, what is the meaning of ijazah? Brother Haris, what is the meaning of ijazah? What do you understand by the word ijazah? Okay, another level of qualification. All right. Anybody else? It's the thing that I received on the convocation day, sir. Kan? The scroll. Right? The responses from past students, the thing that we received on our convocation day. The one response. The result transcript. Because result transcript you akan terima dulu, Okay, result transcript. And then the degree that you get there. Of course, ada orang lain bila tanya, what do you mean, what do you understand by the word ijazah? Don't know. And smiling. Pun ada. Apparently, the ijazah actually is commonly used in Malaysia to denote a person who has obtained a degree, whether professional or otherwise. Right? Medical imaging, bachelor's. Okay, ada. And then bachelor in history, let's say lah. Bachelor in bachelor in all the non-professional courses pun dipanggil ijazah juga. Ijazah sarjana muda. And then after that will be sarjana. After that will be ijazah sarjana tua. Because dah muda dah ada, dan labs tua tak. That one is PhD lah. Dia tak ada perkataan lain, doctorate lah. Ya. Kemudian, now this is the thing. An ijazah is a certificate used primarily by Sunni Muslims to indicate that one has been authorized by a higher authority to teach, and of course there are other associated synonyms, a certain subject or text of Islamic knowledge. This is the original definition. But now we have adopted and adapted it for the professional qualification. Right? So, what is the hidden message behind ijazah? What is the hidden message behind ijazah? Number one is concept of authority or recognition. It means that if people say that I hereby give you the Bachelor of Science in Medical Imaging, actually is an authority. I'm telling you that you have that knowledge. You are the authority in that area of specialization. Itu maksudnya. That is the hidden message. Right? In other words, people recognize that you are an authority in that area. It is an acknowledgement to the graduate, that he or she possesses a body of knowledge beyond that of a layman. Because layman, orang biasa tak tahu tentang medical imaging. Alright? If you were to take a layman and train him for medical imaging, boleh for training purposes. Tapi nak acknowledge that he has the body of knowledge, mungkin tidak. Because we have a series of modules to finish. Alright? So, he or she, an acknowledgement to the graduate for you to, umpamanya macam cakap ni, I now give you or confer you the ijazah so that you integrate, apply and practice the learned theories and concepts within a given working environment. But the more important thing is actually the recognition to teach others. That is the main idea behind the concept of ijazah. Why? I was one of the students in Diploma in Islamic Studies. So the lecturer actually came and asked us, what do you understand by the word ijazah? None of the students can jawab because the lecturer was actually an Arab. And he told us that it's a recognition to teach others. Hence, with the teaching comes responsibilities. It only tells you you are not supposed to keep the knowledge exclusively to yourself. Either you like it or you don't. Now, the synonyms of teach, to teach, demonstrate, show, inform, right? So, demonstrate, show, or inform. Where do we apply in medical imaging? Where we apply the learned knowledge into the clinical area. When do we explain? When do we instruct, train, tutor, brief, or guide? So in this one, it is when you share your knowledge with the students, or the peers, or the colleagues who wish to learn. When do you transmit, communicate, impart, and enlighten? So maybe you kata, I would like to disseminate the knowledge through formal and informal avenues, writing, scientific writings, attending conference, giving talks. When do you imbue, inculcate, initiate? When you are addressing positive values or change in practices. And when do you direct or indoctrinate? Well, the answer is when you are in the management. You can start pinpointing and say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Right? Now, a challenge to the graduates. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this in chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 44. Do you enjoin right conduct on the people and forget to practice it yourself? And yet you study their scripture? Will you not understand? You are telling the people to do the things right, but you yourself do not. That is the problem. This thing is further aggravated in the fact that when you were given the degree, right, you are actually, you already studied about that area of specialization. But upon going into the field, you conveniently forget. When I say you, ni bukan not in this, not the people in this room lah, some other people lah, right? So these are the things that Allah says in the Quran. So if we do not, if no, what is the matter with us? Such that Allah said in chapter 27, verse 92, what is the matter with you that you speak not intelligently? And another one is, what is the matter with you that you help not each other? What is the matter with you? Kalau bahasa Melayu ni macam ni lah. Apa kena dengan kau ni? As if Allah says, apa kena dengan kau ni? You have the intellect, but yet you conveniently choose to ignore. So, the religion and deen, you know about the Aqidah. Everybody knows, I think, about the pillars of Islam and the pillars of Iman. And all this actually leads to the understanding of fiqh. So, sekejap lagi lah fiqh, ya. So, self-examination, all radiographers. I'm talking about in your role as a radiographer. Number one, we need to acknowledge one's own level of Islamic knowledge and practice. Alright? Of course, no need for you to announce to the world. Right? You know yourself, and you know what to do. Next, we come from different religious backgrounds. And I, for one, I come from a secular background. During my year last time, in 1970s, upon finishing your LCE, which is equivalent to your PMR now, people will start asking, dah ni kelas sains ke? So kalau you jawab, ya kelas sains, then people will be smiling at you, right? And they will ask you question, dah belajar mana? Not the usual jazz. But if you were to answer, saya kelas arts, and suddenly they start to give a frown. And then the response will be, aja. Kan? Aja. If you jawab, saya sekolah agama, people will not like to talk to you. That is how secular things were once before. I don't know about your era. Frankly, I don't know. Okay? So, next is, we need to identify the steps to address personal spirituality and spiritual needs. They're two different things. Spirituality and spiritual needs. You might be having a good level of spirituality, but you still need to enhance that spirituality. Then you have to identify what are the needs to achieve that. That is the what you call concept behind these words. So the other one is that appreciate the fact that others are looking at us for directions in matters related to Islamic conduct and faith. You are going back. I'm not mentioning about UiTM ke UiA ke, it doesn't matter. It's that we are in the same boat, right? Being Muslims, we are in the same boat. So you go back, yeah. Upon I don't know, maybe Raya baru ni, people already ask you, alright? People already ask you, wah macam ni belajar sekarang macam mana? But I can tell you about two stories lah. One is about, but this one is specifically UiA punya perspektif lah. I will put that way. If you remember Datuk Ramli Yusof, if I'm not mistaken, ex-CCID commercial crime investigation department, CCID, where he was charged to use the helicopter to survey a certain area in Sabah. I remember very well that he was interviewed by TV3 and said, how do you respond of all these charges? Dia kata, I strongly deny these charges. And then he said something else. And then the final word was actually one that gave me goosebumps. Orang Terengganu kata seriau, whatever. Orang Terengganu kata seriau. When he said, I did not commit this. Furthermore, I am an IIUM graduate. That is what he said. And eventually he was charged in court, but he was freed without having to call for a defense. Okay, whatever politics behind, itu cerita lain. Alright? So, maybe things is going to happen the same way to all of you. Alright? People look up on you for some direction, for some indications. Okay? Now, to call others back to the religion, there are actually opportunities lost in medical imaging practice. There are, right? And especially this obligation to call others back to the religion in medical imaging has been hampered simply because the fact that the patient-practitioner interaction is relatively short, depending on examination lah, alright? For MRI, spinal examination will take what, 1 hour? 1.5? 45 minutes? Okay, 45 minutes. Chest X-ray? How long do you take? 2 minutes? Yes, I agree. I also can do within 2 minutes. Not that I'm boasting, but it is possible. It is possible, 2 minutes, right? So, I am suggesting to the would-be radiographers now, right, understand the fact that this short interaction, you can make use of it to call others back to the religion. Use the limited time to promote, remind, or reinforce religious obligations using wisdom, menggunakan hikmah. What I'm going to tell you after this is based on my version. It might be right, it might be wrong, but if it's right, take it. If it's wrong, don't take it. Right? So, It can happen in the examination room. It can happen in the ward. It can happen anywhere else. But I'm going to tell you one sad state of affairs. The sad state of affairs is in a study conducted by IIUM lecturers in a hospital in Pahang. I'm not going to tell you which hospital. The study showed that 70% of the women warded in gynae ward do not perform their prayers while in the ward. Although at home, they do it secara berterusan. Why is this so? Why is this so? Okay, and this finding, this is about 1.5 months. This finding was actually what do you call a poster presentation after the First World Congress on Islamization of Knowledge in Kuantan, and I got shocked of my life. 70%. But for me, it's not surprising. Why? Because I've been a patient once. I was in a ward for 2 weeks, and you can see all kind of things happening, right? Question, what can we do as Muslim practitioners? So, the would-be practitioners, this is a big, big question that I'm going to leave you with. Consider this interaction. Alright, now I'm going to talk in Malay. Okay, I've said this a few times in our class, but this is for the benefit of others. You panggil masuk one patient. And of course, I like to use the word Pakcik Salim. Why? To find somebody with the name of Salim nowadays is quite difficult. So I'm quite happy. Alright? So, you call Cik Salim. So, the patient is for a chest x-ray. So, the patient comes in, and you just say, Cik Salim, tolong buang baju, atau please take off your shirt, and stand here. Ya ke tidak? Alright? After that, you push the patient to the erect kaki, you position the patient, and walk to the control panel. Ya ke tidak? Ya. After that, you say, Cik Salim, sekarang tarik nafas, tahan, lepas nafas. I mean, after you bang, you expose, and you kata, lepas nafas, sudah siap, sila tunggu di luar. Betul ke tidak? Betul. Oh, of course, pakai baju. Kadang-kadang cakap, kadang-kadang tidak. Kadang-kadang duduk luar, sila tunggu luar. Right? Alright. Now, I just want you to be patient with me. Objectification of the patient. Kita cuma menganggap pesakit itu sebagai satu objek. Ya ke tidak? Right? Satu objek je. Cik masuk, bawa baju, pergi dinding, tarik nafas. Itu for chest x-ray. Okay? Although the word please is used, I kata sila, right? It's just like my friend, sekali itu, they call one patient in, and he was a Chinese radiographer. Maybe Dr. Sharida ingat Wang. Okay, nama belakang tak payah cakap lah. Itu confidential. One patient comes in, and dia beritahu, sila naik atas meja. Ini lagak dia. Sila naik atas meja. And the patient turned round to him and said, kasarnya. He turned round to the patient and said, saya kata sila. Yeah, this is the subjectivity of the whole situation. Alright? So, objectification of the patient is, although the word please was used, but the patient is merely an object. There's nothing that he got from the interaction besides a chest x-ray was actually done. That's all. Kan? And the radiographer was just doing his radiography job. Can you blame him? No, he's expected to do like that, maybe. He's paid to do a radiography job. And he did it. You tak boleh potong gaji dia. Now, consider this interaction. So panggil balik, Cik Salim. So the patient came, ada POP dekat tangan. Right? Benda paling senang, POP dekat tangan. So ibu kata, Assalamualaikum Cik Salim, how are you today? Pernah ke berlaku gitu? Assalamualaikum mungkin. How are you today? Jarang-jarang. Ya, tak ada langsung, will be very unfair. Right? How are you today? Kemudian mungkin patient tu terkejut sebab orang tak pernah bagi salam ke dia. Dia tergagap. Okay. Dia dah tergagap, right? So dia kata, the radiographer pula kata, your arm is recovering very well. Yes? Progress macam mana? Okay ke? So Mr. A pun kata, sometimes I feel numbness. Right? Dia kata kadang-kadang rasa kebas, kadang-kadang rasa sakit. So radiographer pun kata, I think that's normal. Itu perkara biasa. Right? Orang lain pun rasa macam tu juga. Right? Harap sabarlah ya. Ada ke tak? Okay, tak apa. I will dramatize this thing. Saya akan dramatize. After dia kata, sabarlah ya, radiographer kata, tapi semayang okey kan? Boleh tak kita kata gitu? Boleh. Tapi pernahkah kita dengar orang kata begitu? Tak pernah. Benda tu senang aja. Tapi semayang okey kan? Mungkin pada masa tu patient tu kata, saya nak semayang mana? POP ada saya nak ambil semayang mana? Pada masa itulah I think the radiographer, a Muslim radiographer, can instruct the patient what to do rather than leave him alone. Brothers and sisters, this has not been done. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sentimental. Call it whatever you want, I don't mind. But these are the things that we should do. Alright, so go in for the kill. Bukan nak bunuh dia, tapi maksudnya provide the information on how for him to perform the ablation. You are now addressing the spirituality and the spiritual needs of the patient. That is your role of a Muslim radiographer. Okay? So consider another interaction. You go to the ward, mobile X-ray. Pergi dekat pakcik is lying down, right? Tepi itu ada family members. You pun sampai situ. Assalamualaikum pakcik, how are you? Dia pun jawab, ginilah abang, sakit macam ni. Dah, mana semalam Manchester United menang tau. You're looking at the one kind. What has Manchester United got to do with him lying down? Right? But if you were going to go and say, pakcik, how are you? Dia kata macam ni lah. And then benda yang sama, tapi semayang okey kan? Mungkin dia kata saya nak semayang dalam keadaan gini. Masa tu saya nak pergi toilet pun tak boleh. Tak? Nak ambil semayang toilet tak boleh. Family dia ada. Mungkin awak boleh kata, makcik, macam ni makcik, boleh bantu pakcik ni untuk ambil air semayang, pakai spray. Ataupun kalau anak dia ada, adik boleh tolong ayah, dia boleh ambil air semayang. Ataupun kalau kena kaedah tayamum lah. So you are going to address to the spiritual and the spiritual needs and the spirituality. How about in the MRI room? Boleh ke tidak? Maybe boleh. How? You know very well that MRI, we will give you the headphone, right? For what? For what? Saja-saja aja. Untuk melambangkan kejagihan MRI? No. Right? There must be a reason. That is to reduce the sound. Kan? It's bising inside there. I know I have been patient inside there. But by giving that, most of the time we give him something to listen. Ada just to spend the time 1 hour or half an hour. Why don't we change So, for Muslim patients lah, I'm referring to Muslim patients. You go to the patient and then bila dia nak masuk after establishing rapport dengan pesakit, and then bila beritahu dia what the procedure is all about, how it's going to be done, blah 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 blah, the final question or the final second question will you be asking, Cik nak dengar tak bacaan Al-Quran sementara pemeriksaan dijalankan? I don't know. Aris, what do you think? Oh, year one. Year one tak boleh jawab. Year 4 student ada tak? Tak ada year 4 student? Ada? Dia tak nak mengaku, tak apalah. It's okay. Alright? But the fact remains, do you think you can ask the patient, Cik dah dengar bacaan Quran tak? Kalau dia kata tak mau, saya tak mau. Okay, Cik nak dengar apa? Michael Jackson. Fine, give him the Michael Jackson. Respect his wishes. Tetapi, kalau you tanya dia, ya, apa nama ni, Cik nak dengar dah bacaan Quran? Mungkin at that instant, dia teringat kembali. Ataupun awak yang mengingatkan selain daripada Michael Jackson, ada Sa'ad Hamidi, ada Syekh Abdul Basir Muhammad Abdul Samad, or whoever else. We have that. Walaupun dalam, kalau dia katalah, I nak dengar Sa'ad Hamidi tak ada, Cik. Dan dia mention orang lain, tak ada juga, Cik. Apa yang ada? Saya ada satu je. So be it lah. But the thing is, we would like them, or rather I would say that it is to remind them that daripada you dengar benda lain, why don't you dengar benda ni? It's going to take you 1 hour. I punya cara, saya tak akan bagi orang option. I don't like to give people options. Right? Just like I said just now, if it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true. This is the same thing that I'm going to tell you about the practice of a 10-day rule. I don't know whether it's still practiced. I was to perform IVU on a female. Jadi pada saya, how do you feel, females, how do you feel if someone like me were to ask you, are you married? Nanti you kata, alamak, gatal betul lah orang ni. I don't like that, so I cut short. I pergi tanya direct, excuse me, I beritahu dia prosedur, after that I tanya, are you pregnant? Straight, jangan tanya, are you married? I would do that. So, in one particular case, dia bersenyum, saya dah kahwin lagi. Yeah, that was the answer. Alright, saya kata, the reason that I'm asking you that question is that kita tak nak menggunakan radiasi di atas janin yang baru terbentuk. Sebab tu saya tanya you, sama ada kemungkinan tak you pregnant? Saya tak tanya dia, are you married? And you know what happened? The lady refused to have the examination. Padahal baru sekejap dia beritahu saya, dia ketawa, saya tak kahwin lagi. And then when I say the reason is radiasi adalah tidak bagus bagi janin yang baru terbentuk. Air muka dia bertukar dan dia kata saya tak nak buat. Apa assumption you nak buat is up to you. Tetapi ini ialah kadang-kadang approach yang paling bagus. Brutal, spesifik, senang, habis cerita. Tak payah tanya, cik dah kahwin dah? Dia punya tanya, yang nak tanya sangat saya nak kahwin ni pasal apa? No need. That is my way of things. It's up to you. So, on that account pula, for MRI, jangan bagi dia dengar Ustaz Azhar Idrus, or else you'll be laughing inside there. And once they laugh, they start to gerak, then your whole image is going to go haywire. Alright? Ataupun Mr. Bean ke, jangan. Just give them yang betul-betul punya lah. Right? So, whatever he wants, just respect his wishes lah. Ya, kita jangan kata, oh tak mau dengar Quran ke? Oh Allah, setara mana ni? Jangan pula. There's no need for all that. You are just trying to establish a rapport, and this is where wisdom comes in. Alright, menggunakan hikmah. Now, so what would be the lessons learned? In the case of chest X-ray, you are addressing the spiritual needs about not knowing how to perform the ablation. Bukan. That is for the apa nama ni? POP. Sorry, for the POP. In the case of the mobile radiography, you are actually teaching other members of the family. In the case of MRI, you are just trying to promote people to appreciate or sustain some religious connections. Mungkin dia dah lama dah menjauh. Tiba-tiba you tanya, dah dengar ke apa nama ni bacaan Quran oleh sesiapa? Teman-teman dia kata, oh lama dah aku tak dengar. That would enable him to come back to the folds of the religion. So, systemization of values, Islamic values, professional values, and relate those values to the teachings of Islam. Itu je. What are the Islamic values? You can read. About yang paling senang, just follow the conduct of the Prophet. Habis cerita. Alright? What are the professional values? Just read the professional standards. Lepas tu, align them together. Create a harmonization between the two. Okay? Now, what about agents of change? Consolidate the four previous, using of the intellect lah, calling others back to the religion, the vicegerency, consolidate balik. After that, apply in order for you to change the mindsets, the beliefs, the values, and the practices. Now, with that, hopefully, the true characteristics and attributes of a Muslim medical imaging practitioner can be enhanced or can be displayed. Oh, betul. Kalau tidak, kita jadi apa tu? Rojak lah. No, create a harmonization. Solid. Ya, antara kedua-dua values tu. And to change the negative perceptions among the yet to be Muslims. I don't like to call people non-Muslims. I would like to call them as yet to be Muslims, or those people who are yet to revert. Jangan kata convert, They are born macam kita juga, but somehow or another something goes wrong somewhere. So jangan kata convert. If they say that I want to embrace Islam, just beritahu, oh you are reverting to Islam. Alright? Jangan kata, oh dia ni convert. And how in Malaysia is quite famous for us to call people mu'alaf. Don't do that. If they are mu'alaf, kita pun mungkin mu'alaf juga. Cuma we don't do the historical, what do you call that? Apa nama tu? Family tree. Kita tak buat. Right? Just like myself. Bukan apa, I just found out a few years ago, I've got Japanese traits. Japanese? Okay. No, that's what they found out. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So, conceptualization of the code of practice for Muslim medical imaging practitioner, we need to adopt and adapt the Islamic worldview. I'll touch in a short while. Respect the beliefs and values of others. Alright? Don't just say that because they are different, so we reserve our respect for them. No. Allah says, and we created the humans so that they know each other. Bukan distant from each other. Internalize and display the attributes of the true Muslim human character, and ensure that the medical imaging practice is reflective of the vision and mission of the Islamic creed, ataupun Islamic faith. So, in conclusion, we need to identify our own spiritual and religious